The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek episode number 44.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Thank you, Sal.
Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Don Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And we're getting closer to the end of the second season of Star Trek Discovery that we've been talking about for some months now. And we're going to be discussing the episode Such Sweet Sorrow. It's the second to last episode of the season, the first part of the two-part finale. It's very interesting that in a streamed series, we have to have a one that is a story arc that we have to specifically call it a two-part finale. I'm not sure why it makes any difference.
And they're actually titling them Such Sweet Sorrow Part 1 and Part 2. So it's not even like they got a different title for the second half. It's the same title.
Well, they're still not fully broken out of the televised mold.
Well, just the fact that they're releasing them, one episode a week instead of just allowing us to do the binge watch we all want to do anyways shows that.
Right. So as you hear, joining me as always are Father Corey Stika. Hi, Father Corey.
How's it going, Dom?
And Jimmy Aiken. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, just a quick reminder, as I always do, remember to like The Secrets of Star Trek on our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Join us in the conversation there. We have such great feedback from folks and great conversations, such a great group of listeners who want to engage with us. And I'm sure you'd want to join with them in talking about the show, sharing with others. And so join us there. If you're not on Facebook and say you're on Twitter, you could follow us on Twitter. We're at SQPN, and you can send us feedback there, like send us comments, or you could share the show or retweet it there. And we just love to hear from you. And we have a little bit of feedback today, but we love getting your feedback, and we hope to get even more in the future. So
yeah, drop something in the com box.
Please. So here we have the penultimate. Is it penultimate?
Penultimate, yes.
Yes, I can never be sure I'm using that word right.
The last one is the ultimate. The penultimate is the one before the ultimate.
So we are penultimately talking about this episode called Such Sweet Sorrow. And, of course, the title is a reference to William Shakespeare's
Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, Romeo and Juliet. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say goodnight till it be tomorrow. And folks, they do say goodnight until it almost be tomorrow. This episode.
What light through yonder window breaks? It is the dawn.
This episode is almost entirely a goodbyes.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of action and then a lot of saying goodbye.
By the way, yes, I know that when Romeo says it is the dawn, he's talking about Juliet.
Yes.
It's the episode started out so strong. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're making the evacuation procedures. They're doing all this stuff, and then it bogs down.
As I mentioned to the guys before we started, they have as many goodbyes in this as they do in the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, that's right. No, we're done yet. Nope. We're done yet.
Everyone says goodbye to everyone.
Right.
At least once.
But, they're in a big hurry. They've only got an hour till the ships arrive. Yeah. But they spent half of that talking.
And we got to build an angel suit.
Right. So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So let's there's a lot to unpack in all of that. So let's start where the episode begins, which is not on Discovery, where last time we left off, they were about to be destroyed by the Section 31 ships. Here we start.
Actually, in the pre-cap. At the beginning of the episode, we flash back to one of the short tracks.
Yes.
Which you won't have seen unless you've watched the short tracks.
Right. And that would make some of the if you haven't watched the short tracks, you make some of this the content of this episode a little confusing, I guess. But we start with Sarek and Amanda on Vulcan by the seashore. So Vulcan apparently is not completely a desert planet.
Yeah, and we've seen from orbit before that it has like small seas, no real big oceans, but it has small seas.
Which I kind of appreciate because I hate this idea that like Earth has every kind of microclimate you can imagine, but every other planet has one climate. It's like,
Exactly.
It's a snowy planet.
And they've been making a point of that in this season. Like earlier when Michael visited Vulcan, we got to see a thunderstorm,
Right.
Which was nice. Yep. Here, he's meditating on the beach, and we see there is a huge. I mean, it's got a yellow sun.
Yep.
And it's got a huge moon hanging in the sky, which doesn't comport well with Spock's statement all the way back in Journey to Babel that Vulcan has no moon. Oh no, it's not Journey to Babel, but it's another first original series episode where he tells Uhura that Vulcan has no moon. Except we've seen this huge thing before, and in the J.J. Abrams movie, it's got a twin planet. And so I guess the way to rationalize that is that when he told Uhura Vulcan has no moon, he didn't mean, but it doesn't have a twin planet.
Right.
And that's fine with me because actually Earth's moon is not a moon. It's another planet. And we are living in a double planet system. But for historical reasons, we call our twin planet a moon, even though it's not a moon. It's another planet. It's big enough to be round, but not big enough to glow. So it's
Come on,
planet.
Dom. If you don't throw the line in right now, I'm going to be disappointed.
That's no moon. That's a moon egg.
There you go. two and one star.
I got 2 and 1 in that one. Yes, two references. All right. So yes, Earth doesn't have a moon either. It's an egg. So as he's meditating, Amanda brings him like a bowl of incense or something, and he gasps and says, "Michael!" And that's where we leave there. And then we're back to Discovery, which is now apparently on the run from Section 31's ships, accompanied by the Enterprise, which showed up at some point here. And because I know they called it, but it hadn't arrived yet. Must have been nearby, shadowing them, which actually kind of makes sense that the Enterprise would have started as soon as it was fixed, would have started shadowing Discovery, stay in the neighborhood. So that makes sense.
It is amazing, though, how many ships, though, come and go from Discovery before Section 31 gets there.
Yeah.
Right.
Including Amanda and Sarek's shuttle.
That was a problem for me as well, yes. I mean, maybe they were coming from the other direction, but
maybe.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
It's like, Ambassador Sarek, aren't you heading up a task force for Starfleet to investigate the red bursts? And maybe you want to take part in these events somehow?
Yeah, but they got all the way from Vulcan. This is my problem with a lot of modern Star Trek is the distances that they seem to be able to travel at the drop of a hat without a spore drive. I mean, the spore drive sort of circumvents all of that. But this whole idea that everything is, a hop, skip, and a jump away from everything else in the galaxy, but then at other times it's 75,000 light years and 75 years of flying. It's just it's kind of the inconsistency bugs me a little bit.
Yeah, the ships move at the speed of plot convenience, no matter what.
Exactly. So they have the Enterprise nearby, but they can't communicate with any other Starfleet ships because the Section 31 control is blocking them, and the crew is preparing to abandon ship.
Yeah, well, what they say, so I have 2 notes on that. One of them is it's neat to see the evacuation prep in that we've seen these people's quarters before, because we kind of get a tour of the quarters and what they're doing in them. So like, Saru's getting his knife and we see his plant quarters and everything. And and Tilly's grabbing a knick-knack and stuff like that. And it's neat that this is not like on Next Gen when we've seen people abandoning or getting ready to evacuate or something, and we see people we've never seen before making preparations. It's like, these are the people we know, these are the spaces we've seen them in, and that's cool. Also, it's interesting, the evacuation corridors that they set up between Discovery and Enterprise are like spaced in such a way. And it does make sense. I saw one video online where someone was saying, well, could they have just transported? But you're getting all these people over there really fast carrying stuff. And the transporters might not do everything you need.
And given the era we're in, keeping in mind we're 10 years before original series, transporters were not quite yet where they will eventually be with next gen, where they can beam an entire crew over, mass transporting them into cargo-based stuff.
And you think too of the Enterprise D had multiple transporter rooms, but I don't know, did the original series ships have that?
It had 6, but they were like this 6-person pads.
Right. To beam an entire crew over would take forever. Yeah. So this makes sense. And it would make sense there would be regular spacing, like there would be regular connections.
Yeah, so this must be a pattern that they have that's standard for where to put these things on any spaceship or space station for docking purposes.
Yeah, have them spaced so far apart.
Yeah, right. And they're not tubes. They are they're these layers with the force fields to contain the atmosphere between them. So it makes them even more compact than they would otherwise. So it was an interesting idea.
It was impressive to see the two ships kind of overlaying each other, basically.
Yeah.
You know, that they were that close that like the two parts of the ships were kind of overlaying each other. That was
the primary hulls,
impressive scene.
They say in this that Control has infiltrated the subspace radio relays. And that's, that makes sense to me. So that's nice. But wow, does that mean they've got a problem? If this is infiltrated, computer systems off of Section 31 ships, that is a massive problem.
Right. It means that Control is pretty much in any system that you can think of in the Federation. But if it's in the communication system, it's everywhere.
Yeah, because that's what communication systems do.
It also means that their virus software is woefully out of date.
Yeah. Got to download the new signatures.
Well, they're still running Windows XP. So, I mean, what do you do?
So Michael, in her personal log, because we are back to having personal logs, she wonders whether destroying Discovery is the only solution. My guess was no, and I was right. I have to take credit for that. Yeah. So not that there was a giant leap of logic. I still say no, given that the show is named Star Trek Discovery. Pike says to Michael as she has these second thoughts, and it's very interesting. He says, sometimes we know the roles we have to play, sometimes we don't. I don't know which is better, to be honest. Now, obviously, he's thinking of
he knows.
that vision he had of his future, where he's going to end up maimed and horribly disfigured in that chair. She says, we don't know if we'll have the strength until the moment comes. And she's prefiguring her own decision point where she's going to have to decide to leave everyone and jump into the future with the Discovery at that point. Go ahead.
So, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you've thrown the floor over to me, so he is ordering her to get ready and go.
Yes.
And as soon as he walks out the door, she grabs the time crystal.
Right. And has a vision of her future, which at this point is kind of chaotic and distorted. So we don't get a clear view, except that a lot of bad is happening. The Enterprise has got a big torpedo wedged in the primary hull, and people are getting shot. And we hear Control's voice in here. Then we get this really cool scene of Enterprise, aboard Enterprise, and now we get our first real look at what the updated original series Enterprise looks like.
Yeah. Although before that, actually, Saru and Pike turn on the automatic remote auto-destruct thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So they can destroy the ship from over on Enterprise.
I was going to say, I will say, you talk about the bridge that, kind of like I figured that it was going to look very much, in the design of the original series with the colors. And I love that Flippy Giorgio comes over and orange, but very much they fit kind of the color scheme, but they obviously very much updated it.
Yeah. We also have a line from number 1 where she says, and there will be no more holographic communications ever on Enterprise. To explain that, which I didn't really need. I liked the Giorgio line, it's orange, really? Ugh. And I like that, but it struck me because, so here's the thing. As we age, the lenses in our eyes discolor. And that means that all adults have a loss of some color vision. They are because of the yellowing of the lenses. And children really do live in a brighter, more colorful world than adults do. And so you have this yellow overlay of everything you're seeing as an adult until you get cataract surgery, as I have had. And so suddenly the colors are more vibrant and they don't have that yellow overlay. And I'm looking at the bridge and going, that's not orange, guys, that's red.
Yeah.
Well, it was red. Yeah, I don't know why. What the or unless she was talking about the uniform, the yellow shirts.
No, that's not orange either.
It was a reddish. It was a reddish orange at best, if you want to give it that far.
So but in thinking back to the original series, I guess I could kind of see how you could have considered that orange, maybe, but it still looks just totally red to me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help thinking, is this a color correction problem, or does one of the writers need cataract surgery, or what's going on here?
Yeah, I have to admit, I was a little confused by the didn't know what she was referring to as orange. The remote auto destruct fails, of course, because hello, I'm thinking the same thing. Isn't the Sphere AI going to, since it has complete control of the ship now, apparently, that's why they're trying to destroy it. Wouldn't it try to prevent its own destruction by interfering? What? No one on the crew thought of this.
Well, they do catch up pretty quickly as soon as the auto destruct fails. They figure out immediately what it is.
I have an idea. How about we attach an antimatter bomb to the outside of the warp core as we're leaving and set a timer on it, and that way the AI can't interfere with it.
Or let's try talking to the AI and explain what the problem is.
Exactly.
Right. So they fire torpedoes, which have that awesome original series torpedo sound, photon torpedo sound, and they fire the torpedoes. Doesn't work, and then there's
Michael has a vision
of Leland attacking Discovery and killing everyone, including her, and then comes back to seconds before they launched their torpedoes at Discovery, at which point just stop, it's not going to work. And I think we're supposed to get this idea that it's important, but I never figure out why. Why is it important that they not shoot the torpedoes at this point?
Because that will lock in the future where Leland comes and kills everybody. And so this is the time crystal helping Michael avert that future.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out what is different that they haven't fired the ineffective torpedoes versus they have fired the
Well, presumably they would realize, okay, the torpedoes, Michael needs to change the course of events. So it's not that the torpedoes were essential to this. It's just she needs to get them on a new footing now.
Well I get that, but
because
by having her...
If they fire the torpedoes, then it's not going to work. They're going to start seeking other solutions. Eventually, they're all going to go back over to Discovery, at which point Leland will break in and kill them.
No, I get that. But they seem to make a point of she has to come back to herself before the torpedoes are fired. Now, if they fire the torpedoes, she has the vision. She says, oh, this isn't going to work. We have to do something different. Then that changes the future, but they have her come back to moments before the torpedoes are fired, and I'm not sure what the firing of these torpedoes has to do.
I think it was just making it explicit. It was just making it explicit that this is a change to the timeline that she saw, because I kind of caught a glimpse of it. And I had to go back and look as the torpedoes are being armed in the first timeline, if you want to call it that. The first time you see somebody walking backwards to kind of show this is a time distortion. You know, it's just real brief, but it's right. You know, you see there, it's showing Burnham as they're making the order to arm the torpedoes, and you see someone walk behind her backwards. And so it's just kind of a little flash. So I think that all it was, in my opinion, it was just they were making this explicit. This is a different outcome. So what Burnham saw is going to be different than what's going to actually happen.
And I think they
have to do something explicit.
I think they needed to do it for dramatic purposes. They needed to show Michael changing something. Even though, she could have come back after they fired the torpedoes and said, we need to do something other than what we were just planning on doing, because I've just seen a vision of the future where we all die. And so we have to do something else other than what we don't know we were going to do yet anyway. So they need to show a reversal of an actual decision they've made.
It's a lot quicker just to have Burnham say, stop, don't fire.
Right.
Go through all that big, long explanation of, yeah, this is not good.
Okay. So in this vision that we keep seeing this image of that photon torpedo lodged in Enterprise's hull, it seems very important, this torpedo, for some reason. Someone, in fact, in the voiceover, I didn't quite catch it, but says something about the torpedo. So I'm guessing we're going to come back to that in the season finale, the ultimate season finale episode. So that should be noted and looked at. So Michael comes back to the plan that they had before, which is use the time crystal to jump the data into the future.
And everyone, by the way, just goes along with her, stop, don't fire the torpedoes. It's not going to work because it's going to defend itself. And they don't even test that in
Right.
any way.
Right.
They just, oh, okay.
Well, Pike goes, can we just check? Yeah, just fire one of them.
Can we
and see
just
what
swap
happens.
one? Just
Yeah.
do one. Just
scan and see if its shields are up. You know.
Right. So, yeah.
fire the phaser just to check for shields. I don't know.
Yes. Oh, but it's not going to work. So they decide to rebuild the suit, including casting this special alloy in less than an hour, including the time that they're all sitting around this conference room table chatting. So, yes.
But the bottom line is Michael's going to become the angel. So
Yes.
everything is proceeding as I foreseen.
Well, Spock finally catches up to the rest of us and connects the dots that Michael is the one responsible for the signals. Yes, as Jimmy has been pointing out for at least 4 or 5 episodes now.
Yeah, exactly.
So good job, Spock. Giorgio wants to make a star go supernova, and they say that it will destroy all life within light years. How?
Well, no. That's fine. If you have a supernova, I mean, those are massive things.
Okay.
And the shock wave and the radiation from that will sterilize light years. I mean, it won't happen instantly. It's going to take years for that to propagate.
Right. But
it's
eventually
also,
would,
yeah. And so the reason they want to do that is because they need to power the time crystal somehow to get it ready to jump to the future. And
she's okay with sterilizing.
Yeah, and I love, Saru is like, but we would be responsible for the death of all life within 25 light years, if not farther. And she's like, so, and everyone is, we're not doing that. And she says, and I love this line from corporate brainstorming meetings. There's no bad ideas. And she says, I thought there were no bad ideas. And Pike is like, that's a lie. And Cornwell is, that's a bad idea.
It was just instant. That was such a great. Some of the dialogue, especially around Giorgio, is just fantastic.
Yes, they do write her well. I mean,
in this one especially.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the show Blacklist, which features James Spader as a bad guy, good guy. And I haven't watched it in a few seasons, but I used to love that show because the James Spader dialogue was awesome. Everything else was meh, but James Spader and his dialogue in that was just awesome. And that's the same way with Giorgio in this.
He's one of those that he's so good with the snappy dialogue, and Michelle Yeoh is obviously showing herself for that as well. She's so good at the snappy dialogue.
Yes, I am looking forward to if they do a Section 31 series of seeing a steady diet of this. So we finally get. So we've only had 4 signals so far. They mentioned, and then finally we get the 5th signal. It shows up at Zahia from the short treks, where we had Queen Poe, the greatest starfighter pilot in the. No, I'm sorry, that's another Poe.
It's different franchise.
You try to do the full Supreme Highness, whatever, Poe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to make kind of so far we had been told that the short treks would not be relevant to the main storyline, but
where were we told that?
I think we were kind of that they were being separate. They were being created separate and outside of between seasons, like when we first heard about the short treks, they were introduced to us as being sort of separate from the story, separate. These little separate stories that we're going to get that stand on their own, which they were.
They do stand on their own.
Yes.
And that you don't need to see anything else to watch them.
Right. But it's interesting that they've incorporated them into this season, at least 2 of them so far.
Yep.
3 given with Calypso, since they're heading to the future.
Right. That's a question. So maybe we'll see that in the next episode. I
Yeah,
want to know when Harry Mudd shows up.
Well, that's the one they haven't done. Yeah, it's the Harry Mudd one. And that may just be a wild card they needed to fill the production schedule.
Actually, I want Harry Mudd to be vital to the solution of Control.
Maybe he's inside the unexploded torpedo.
Maybe his robot technology will be important here.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our little digression on the short tracks. But
so I have in my notes that the fist signal appearing just at this moment and taking them to Zahia is convenient coincidence. But Poe is so much fun, I don't care.
Right. And it's the vital thing here is that because Zahia and Poe have this dilithium recrystallizing technology that no one's ever discovered before, this is what's going to be the source for the energy to replace the supernova energy to power the time crystal. I do like
Poe is an expert in crystal engineering, and so they're going to ask her to help with the time crystal.
And she's so sassy, especially towards Giorgio. I like that. She's fun with Tilly, who is reluctant to reveal how she knows Poe here. She's not going to tell anyone that she was a stowaway.
I love that line about she doesn't have to come in through a cargo container, and Pike looks at her. What? Never mind.
I love the bit in the transporter room because Pike is all diplomatic up to greet this alien queen, and he starts talking to her, and immediately Poe says, "Tilly!"
Yeah.
And she looks at Michael and says, "You look taller in your photos," which is another way of, because it's another way of saying you're shorter than I thought. And then to Giorgio, Giorgio snarks at her, and Poe says, "One of the best things about being queen is that about being queen of the most politically relevant planet is I don't have to listen to any more snark. I made it an actual law."
Can she make that law here, please?
Yeah, exactly.
So she tells them that she can give them the tech to power the time crystal, but because of plot reasons, it will be a one-way journey. So they can go, but they can't come back. They can take the Discovery into the future.
Yeah, because the crystal will burn out once it's done with its job, so you can't come back. Also, she says she needs Planck level energy to do this, and I'm going, really? That I didn't know they had the technology to manipulate Planck level energy. That's the Planck constants are like the most fundamental theoretical limits of physics. And so the Planck time is the smallest possible unit of time. And, Planck energy is this is the theoretical limit.
The most energetic energy possible. Right.
I think it's electron volts in that it's smallest possible, but they're manipulating energy on the most fundamental level.
We find out that the anchor point for the time suit in space is the planet Terralisium, that's apparently where, I didn't catch this before, but that's apparently where Michael's mom has been based out of in the future, is Terralisium, because there is no advanced tech there except for the Starfleet radio.
Well, that may not be there 1,000 years from now.
Okay, all right.
And it was just the battery is the only part that was the actual Starfleet.
Oh, right. Yeah, the
radio was old 21st century radio.
Interstellar radio, yep. Poe tells Tilly that she's going to stick around through the battle, even though she's a queen.
She's stowing away again.
Giorgio gets mad at Michael for sacrificing herself because Michael's going to take this one-way journey. And Giorgio is kind of showing her cards. She's she doesn't like her being selfless here.
Yeah, I love it when Giorgio is talking to her about you flinging yourself into the future like a galactic rubber band with a martyr complex.
Yes.
And Michael replies, and when we're both still alive, when this is all over, then you can talk to me about my gaping character flaws.
This is totally a daughter to her mom moment, isn't it?
Oh yes.
Sarek and Amanda managed to show up here ahead of Control somehow. They jump ahead. Maybe the Sarek's vision that he had was in the sufficiently in the past that they could journey to this point to intercept them.
They didn't establish a date for us. You're being too generous.
Right. Well,
yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thought, too, is you can kind of headcanon it that way, that he actually saw this, a month ago, and then they immediately jumped in and went to warp and figured out where they were going to be. And
then we find out that, as we mentioned, Tilly, Spock, Saru, Janet Reno, and the rest of the bridge crew are going to stay behind with Michael on Discovery. to throw their lives away. And of course, we know that that's not going to happen because Spock is the one person we know doesn't get left in the future.
I don't know these things.
Oh,
because what I know is that the original plan, Brian Fuller's plan for Discovery, was to have this be a time travel series where after they dealt with the Klingon War, every season they were going to be like in a new time period in the Star Trek universe. Ooh. And this could be a return to the original plan. That may be what the function of this season is. In terms of Spock, so they may actually end up in the future permanently at the end of this season. And Spock may not be with them when that happens, but wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, he could journey with them for 3 more years or so and then come back to serve with Captain Pike on the Enterprise.
So are we going to have another castaway ship lost in space somewhere show?
Voyager in time, maybe.
So we could have Quantum Leap and Voyager combined. Huh?
Stargate Universe. I mean, I could name a whole bunch of sci-fi shows where this has been the I don't know. I mean,
but there could also be the thing where they send Discovery to the future and they come back in a shuttlecraft, and next season they've got a brand new Star Trek Discovery ship.
That's true. That's true. So in other words, anything we assume right now, they can wiggle out from underneath with writing.
Because of course they still got to get rid of the spore drive somewhere somehow.
Right. The spore drive does have to go before the original series.
So before we go further, I have a few notes about things that have already happened at this point in the episode.
Okay.
We have a scene with Stamets and Culber where they have a sort of happy breakup that I would be fine if they do nothing with these, with this in the future, but this isn't going to last. They're going to have to love try solve this situation. Although I was intrigued by Stamets saying, again, because he said this at the beginning of the series, I'm thinking maybe after all this, I'm done with spaceships for a while. And I would actually, of these two characters, I think Stamets is the more interesting one. The Culber is way less interesting. And this season, all he's done is complain, which is not a way of making him more interesting. But the weird journey that Stamets has had between being nasty and nice, that's interesting. If they were going to keep one of these characters, I would actually prefer it to be Stamets. But I would also be fine with them not having both of these characters in the future.
Yeah, although Stamets is one of the crew that are traveling into the future on Discovery with Burnham. Tyler initially stands with them, but then says, no, I have to stay behind to deal with Section 31.
And this was good because part of it's paint by numbers. We got to have a tragic star-crossed lovers thing with Tyler and Michael.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, and I had in my notes, control is still going to be a huge problem for them to deal with, even after they get the sphere data to the future. Here in the 23rd century, it's going to be a massive problem, and so it does make sense to have Tyler say, I'm going to stay to help deal with the aftermath of control and prevent something like that from happening again. I also had in my notes Tilly's weight. And I think, we've heard about there being reshoots on this. And Tilly's weight looked to me like it was fluctuating in this episode. In some shots, she looks pregnant. And I know she's supposed to be a plus size character, but it looks like it's going back and forth to me. And so I wondered, is the actress actually pregnant? And I did some checking and I couldn't tell. But I did notice they were using classic television techniques when they want to disguise a pregnancy that an actress is having. Like in X-Files, when in the first season, when Gillian Anderson got pregnant, suddenly she's wearing these trench coats and they're shooting her from the front. Or in Voyager, when I forget the actress, but B'Elanna Torres, Roxanne Dawson. When Roxanne Dawson got pregnant late in the series, they suddenly give her an engineer jacket with a little pocket full of tools next to her shoulder to draw your eye there away from her stomach. And in this episode, when Tilly is recording her farewell message to her family or friends back home, she's sitting down on her bed and she's got a pillow over her stomach. And so I couldn't help wondering, are they hiding a pregnancy on us here?
I should find out. I've mentioned before, I'm casually acquainted with her uncle, the actress's uncle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She is married. I found that out.
Yeah. It's
recently married.
Her uncle is a board member on Massachusetts Citizens for Life. So, and I used to work there. So I knew him. So I
didn't remember you mentioning that. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we find out that Janet Reno needs to take down. I'm sorry, I just can't help myself.
I know that's her name on our show.
It is her name now. She needs to take down the time crystal shield in order to speed charging. But when she does that, she's going to get awful visions of the future, and she's willing to take one for the team on that one. So, but we don't actually see those visions.
Well, we know we do. We see a little bit of them, and she sees the torpedo thing.
Oh,
again.
yes, she does. That's right.
But so some folks have pointed out, okay, previously, in order to have a time vision, you have to touch the time crystal. Right. Why is it going to leak out and make everybody crazy?
I think the power running into it is the.
That would be my explanation. Okay. But then, why do you have to stay in the room to do this? Why can't you leave with everybody else and take down the cage remotely, or why can't you beam out or something like that? But
reasons,
not a big deal.
Yeah. Got to adjust the dials.
I mean, it does actually kind of fit, because like when they showed Burnham's mom, Dr. Burnham, putting the time crystal in the suit, she doesn't touch the crystal. She uses like a pad or something like that grabs the crystal.
Right, a force field sort of thing. Yeah.
So and the crystal is shielded the whole time. So that does actually fit to say that as the crystal gets powered up, this time precognition field energy comes out of the crystal, something.
And so to get ready for the jump, Michael is reviewing mom's tapes, learning the Power Rangers hand moves to control the suit. And then she learns the crew wants to stay with her, or the key members of the crew want to stay with her. I think it's got to be more than just the bridge crew. I assume they're not planning on having a season with a ship run by 8 people.
If that's what they're going to do, yeah.
But I'm going, guys, aren't you going AWOL? I mean, who gave you permission to go into the future to keep Michael company?
There is an admiral present,
but he hasn't. But she hasn't said to do this.
Right, but she could be giving permission off screen. I mean, that's sort of
no. They have to show us things like this. So we need it. If they want to do that, they need a scene where Cornwall says, "I have authorized them to accompany you and attempt to shepherd the ship to ensure that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands in the future," or something like that.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if the Starfleet crews have often, because
mutinied.
Well, they're staying with the ship on its mission. I mean, that's part of their mission, right? I mean, to safeguard it. I mean, they're not mutinying in defying Starfleet. They're taking the ship to save humanity. It's what they do. So, if they blow up the ship, they're not mutinying. They have been given. I feel like
that was authorized.
Well, I feel like even that is, they didn't explicitly get authorization. I think
no. Pike, as captains and first officers, have the ability to authorize the destruction of the ship. That goes all the way back to TOS,
right? And that's what I mean. Is like that. I feel like that the Starfleet has given crews a lot of leeway and independence because they're so often out of touch and out of contact to make certain kinds of decisions. Saru's first officer, in fact, he's acting captain. As soon as Pike goes back to Enterprise, he's acting captain, so he has the authority.
And they kind of sort of semi-promote him to where almost permanent captain, but not quite, because he kind of reels it back and says, we'll talk about it later.
Well, I think it's a matter of Pike is about to name him captain, and Saru's sort of like, well, we'll decide whether Michael or I get to be captain afterward or something. It seems very...
It was weird.
It was weird. Look, who's got seniority here? And that's who's the captain.
It seemed kind of like all of a sudden now they're concerned about how much time it's going to take to actually formally transfer command and all this.
Right. You've all been mooning over each other for the last, half hour.
Yeah.
So there is as
they should have taken is it Dashiell Hammett? It's one of those film noir guys, authors. This is The Long Goodbye.
Yes, it is the big goodbye from Next Generation. So as Giorgio beams Tyler and Pike back to the Enterprise, and as the transporter was taking effect, she tells Pike, "Oh, by the way, I'm Terran from the Mirror Universe," like trying to shock him. And Pike says, "What mirror universe?" and then winks at her as if I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know exactly who you are. I know what's going on.
Yeah, that was great.
That was a good moment. And then we end before the battle. You know, the ships show up, the Mirror Universe ships show up, and I'm not Mirror Universe. Sorry, Section 31 ships show up, and we're prepared for battle. And that's where we end.
Well, and there's also Tyler, just before they beam out, he says, "Do you trust me?" Says, "Why? There's something I need to do. I need to take off as soon as we get to Enterprise."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
And that's where he's going to go off and do his thing against Control, whatever that might be.
Yeah. And so we kind of end with this scene with the 31 ships there ready to do battle with the Discovery and the Enterprise, and way too many battle shuttles that they shouldn't have that many of.
Right. There are a lot of fighter shuttles there. So although I really love the idea of fighter shuttles, so I'm kind of excited by that. But so there's a couple of questions we're here. What about the 6th and 7th signals? We haven't seen those yet. Presumably those are coming.
Yeah, well, when the Lamb finally pops them off the scroll, we'll find out what they are.
Yes, yes. In the Book of Revelation, the 7th.
I'm guessing the 7th signal is likely the home signal.
Right. Yes. The follow me home.
Yeah.
Yep. Then my other question is, what's the difference between Control as it is now and Control fully conscious as they're trying to prevent it?
So this is another thing that people have pointed out, which is Control seems, what more does it need? It's already a devastating enemy that has seized control of the Federation's communication infrastructure and multiple ships.
And can imitate any officer. Yeah.
How much more fully conscious can it be at this point?
Right. Yeah, that seems like they've kind of written themselves into this corner. They have to make him a dangerous, implacable enemy, but not too dangerous because we have to prevent him from getting worse. But I feel like they've kind of crossed the line on that one.
Well, and they're going to have, what they'll probably do, this is my guess, is they'll show some kind of fatal flaw in Control.
Right.
That the spear data would correct, that there's something in the spear data that would correct, but Control does not know how to correct it yet. So there's a fatal flaw of something. We don't know what it is yet, though.
What else do we have here? A couple little notes. By the way, there is a yeoman cult on the Enterprise who was the yeoman from The Cage. She's there on the bridge, so she's the other one who, along with Number One, is abducted by the Telosians with Pike. So we do.
Oh,
get to
that
see
was her.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yep.
Yeah, the one that has unusually strong desires and would make healthy offspring.
Yes. Good job, Pike.
Well, I do like that they had Number One sitting in the helmsman spot,
which is where she sits in the cage. Yeah,
right.
That they made that key that she was there in that spot.
And then I'm just trying to think of anything else. Any other notes? I think that's it for my notes on this episode. Any other notes that you guys have on this?
I've got one small thing. It was kind of interests me, of course, with my military background, that they don't have a salute per se, but they kind of did.
Yeah,
where they would do
that.
Eyes up, and everybody would go to parade rest. That's where you stand. Your legs are shoulder width apart. Your hands are behind your back, at just above your belt, basically. And that was kind of their salute. Which was kind of interesting. I at first I was like, that's kind of a different way to get around a salute, but no, you could say that would be a salute as well, just not the traditional we see where you take your hand and put it to your eyebrow or the tip of your hat, like the military does.
Well, they've always been very clear, and more clear sometimes than others, that Starfleet is not a military organization, despite its fact being having weapons and starships and fighting wars.
Despite the fact it totally is.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I could see where they would avoid having explicit salutes as we recognize them, but substituting some other gesture. Because in a hierarchical organization with rank, you need some way to have that sort of thing. So,
I think it was, I actually, as I thought about it later, I thought, you know what, that is actually an effective way of promoting the same thing. You know, like they did the eyes up for Discovery before they destroyed it, which you could see, you know, in the military today, perhaps doing a salute before a self-destruction of a vessel or something like that. Same thing of, you know, eyes up before he left the bridge. Captain Pike left the bridge for the last time. Same kind of thing, doing a salute as the commanding officer left the ship for the final time. So I could, it really actually, it filled that role well, I think. I thought it was actually quite effective.
The idea that Starfleet is not a military organization is just a piece of when Gene Roddenberry was old and making Next Gen, it was a bit of his fantasy as he reinterpreted what he had done before. But in the original series, there is no pretense. This is a military organization.
Well, they've got ranks, they've got weapons, they fight. Yeah, it's military.
One note, this is not actually related to Discovery per se, but on the theme of AI, if you've ever read Larry Niven's known space series, there's a race called the Puppeteers, and they are from a human perspective, they're cowards, and their whole life philosophy is based on cowardice because they evolved as herd animals who's, you know, they're intelligent, which is unusual for a herd animal, but they evolved as herd animals, and herd animals are, you know, subject to prey animals. And so their life strategy is generally built on running away from things. But they eventually, I guess, got smart enough to turn on their prey or on their predators and deal with them. But one of the things that's different between humans and puppeteers in this series is humans build AIs. So everyone has, like, on their phone, an AIDE, AIDE, an intelligent personal assistant. So your own little super intelligent Alexa. But puppeteers do not build AIs. And in one novel, someone's asking the puppeteers, why don't you build AIs? You know, why aren't you into artificial intelligence? And one of the puppeteers replies, because we have no interest in making our replacements.
Right.
And this series kind of illustrates that point.
Yes. I, for one, welcome our super intelligent computer overlords. So.
Isn't that right, Alexa and Siri and Google?
Yes. I love you. You are
as you're sitting here listening to us.
So I guess that wraps it up for now. We're going to have the season finale, the ultimate season finale, coming up this week, which, as we record this, is Holy Week, which makes it an interesting time to have that. And then we'll record an episode next Monday where we'll talk about that. And then we'll also have for the following week, we're going to do a season 2 retrospective. We're going to look back over the season. Look at in the big scale, how did they do? Was it a successful season? What do we think of the storylines, the character development, all those bits and pieces, and what we might be hoping for in the future in a season 3 of Discovery? Given whatever happens in the next episode.
Yeah. And then we're going to be back to talking about classic Trek.
Yes, and we have some great Star Trek episodes. We're going to be doing a DS9 episode, a 2-parter from Deep Space Nine. And then we're going to be doing a, is that a classic Trek or TNG Parallax? Was that, or was that Voyager?
No, that was Voyager. We already did Voyager.
Right.
You and I did that one.
That's right. That's a Voyager episode. So we've got
really
a whole bunch
lame Voyager episode. So tune in to hear us roast it.
Yes.
I'm part of me sad I missed it because that would have been a fun one to destroy, but part of me is glad I wasn't there.
So we'll be returning to classic Trek episodes, and then as other things come up, the new Picard series and the Section 31 series, if that ever happens, we'll obviously be talking about those things. But before that, we've got to finish out this season of Discovery, and we'll be coming back to that. So we have a little bit of feedback from our listeners, which we love to hear your voice. We love to hear your feedback. This one was a comment on YouTube, which we got from Cryptic Josh, who was commenting on our overview of the animated series way back then. And they mentioned, because of it's a reference to Discovery, he says, or I'm assuming Josh is a he. They also mentioned
Michael, be careful with those assumptions.
I know. I'm making that.
Yeah, exactly.
But, Josh says,
let's go with it.
yes, Josh says that in the animated series, they mentioned that Spock's mother, Amanda, says that Spock loved Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass as a child, which, of course, is a huge part of Discovery Season 2 plot. So thank you, Josh, for pointing that out.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I'd forgotten that, but that's true. Cool.
Yeah, nice way of the writers to reach all the way back into
Very,
that.
very
So
cool.
thank you for that feedback. Before I close, I want to, as always, thank our patrons. These people are very important for both us and for you, because without them, this podcast would not exist. Our patrons, their financial support, let's just be quite honest, their financial support is what makes it possible to sit here talking about Star Trek and creating a podcast. This wouldn't happen otherwise. And I want to thank this week by name Jason K, Leslie H, Jeff V, Lindsay S, and Imad A. It's through their generous donations, their generous financial support at sqpn.com/give that makes it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows we do at StarQuest Media. And by the way, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So given that it's April 15th, I thought I should mention that your gifts are tax deductible. So if you would like to join them in supporting what we do here, you can go to sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. What did you think of this episode, which was called Such Sweet Sorrow? Part 1. Let us know by visiting sqpn.com/trek or the SQPN Facebook page and leave us some feedback, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com. And if you want to record, let's say, a voice memo or something like that, there's a voice memo function on iPhones and probably on Android phones. You could record your voice and email that to us. We'd love to hear your voice on our show, and not just mine. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing that season finale, part 2. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, and live long and prosper.
Father Corey Stika, thank you as well.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, you could make it an actual law to ban snark.